Good evening, and welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the Think Show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so called African American didn't find his way into America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous one. What do we have to know as a collective of people? And when I say a collective of people, I mean from Seattle to Miami, San Diego to Bangor, Maine, and everything in between the land that is called Central North America. What do we have to do to get back on the path that we were on before we were interrupted? What do we have to know? And not using no ego, not using your athletic skills, not using none of that stuff you use for boss. What do we have to know to make sure our great grandchildren don't go through the same bullshit that we go through today? Well, tonight we're going to talk about that. Halito, everybody. Moon Faye, how you doing, love, with the green heart? Edward Pearson, how you doing? Copper Colored Lifestyle 94. How you doing? R. Smith, good evening to you also. So as a nation of people, what do we have to know? What do we have to do with what we know? Tonight we're going to talk about that. Because one thing, this is one thing I learned this week. And we're not Aboriginal, we're not original. That's none of us. We're created from the earth. We're created from the earth. We're created just like a bird is. Just like a deer is. You're a part of the earth. And when you start thinking how other people tell you to think, then you start getting into your ego and you start being what they tell you to be. That's the problem the Negro has today. All that is over. Because Brother Rick Moon gonna come give us some information on what we have to know in accordance with the great law of peace, in accordance with nature. Because sometimes we think boss know more than nature, because that's what we act like. We go to him before we go to nature. But tonight we're going to learn some techniques. We're going to learn some other skills that you used to have. We're going to bring them back into vision tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Rick Moon. What's up, homie?
Hey, ain't nothing. How y'all doing, America? And the reason why I said America, the indigenous one just explained it. So how's everything going with you, indigenous one?
And everything is cool, man. Getting ready for this New Year celebration. Hey, everybody, it's New Year's. I know some of you guys celebrate New Year's in the dead of winter. That's not how it's done. That's not how indigenous people here in Central North America do it. New Year is spring cleaning. Everything is growing. Everything is anew. And that's what I mean. When we get caught up in, we get it caught up into other people's way of doing things. We get caught up into other ideologies. Why in the hell would you celebrate New Year's in the dead of winter? And when you ask a Negro that, they never know. I don't know. The New Year is in spring. Didn't your mama used to make you do spring cleaning? Didn't your mama used to make you do spring cleaning, Rick?
Oh yeah, I had to do it all the time.
Yeah, brother. So what do we have to know? What are some of the things we have to know? Because there's a lot of confusion going on the planet right now, and a lot of it is being thrown directly at us. What do we have to know, and what should we be doing to deal with all of this?
Okay. But before I go with that, I just wanted to say a few things. Uh, you know, Indigenous one just mentioned, the new year and everything. So, with that being said, the spring equinox is the 21st of this month. So, I think a lot of people should be looking into a lot of the different ceremonies and festivities and things that our people did back in the day, because that was a special time for our people, and we had ceremonies and we celebrated it. So I just wanted to say that. But what I did was, I kind of put a little checklist together, on things that we should be aware of when we're trying to find out who we are, what happened to us, or what has happened to us, and what we need to do to in the future, to get back on the path to where we used to be at one point in time, because there was a time where our people, where we were in charge of everything. So that's my goal. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to see it in my lifetime, but hopefully I'll be able to find out some kind of way. But anyway, um, when you try when when you're figuring out what how things go on, you know, uh, when it comes to indigenous people and what is going on from before the arrival of the European and after the arrival of the European. You gotta kind of look at it two ways. You gotta look at it in the indigenous way, the way that our people did it, and then you gotta look at it in the patriarchal way, which is what we were introduced to and what we're basically into now. So because I feel that a lot of people, they know what's going on, and they can rattle off a lot of good information stuff, but they might have a little trouble, trying to put together uh to make it all fit, like I'm talking about something, like uh back in the day things were different. So you gotta kind of know what they were doing back in those days instead of what's happening now. And I think a lot of us think like that a lot of times. And what I did, I just put a little checklist together of things that you should remember. And I know, and I don't know everything, and remember every, I didn't remember everything. It's probably a whole bunch of stuff on here that I didn't put, you know. But it is kind of long though, so I was able to put a lot together. But like I said, and most of the people that usually listen, they know most of this stuff anyway, you know. But it might be something that I might say that you pick up, you know. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and start this list. And what I did, I broke it up into 8 categories. And the first category is pretty basic. It's ancestry. That's the first thing with all searches in in trying to find out who you were, where your people were, and what your people did, and all that, and returning back to it. It all starts with ancestry, and that starts with the elders. because they know you better than anybody because they was there when you was born, so they know exactly who you are and where you came from. So you might not think they do, and they might not sound like it, but they know. They know. Um, Another thing, you could also talk to uh, your relatives. You could talk to old friends. You know, because a lot of things they might know your family so well that they can remember stuff about your family that your family don't remember. So that's why it's a good idea, to talk to old friends and and people like that too. And usually every family, it usually always somebody in that family that does that type of stuff, like collect old pictures, family pictures, from back in the day, stuff like that. Usually every family got somebody that does that anyway. But another thing,
Rick, would you say that every family has a historian, or every family, like somebody you just said who collects pictures and stuff? You think every family has that, right?
I would think most would. I would think, as a matter of fact, I would say at least 95%.
Yeah. So this is something, everybody, when we say we don't have nothing, we do have something. We do have, it's somebody in everybody's family. It may be you in yours that's looking at the family, and everybody done got their jobs, everybody's on the crack pipe and whatever. But it's one out of all that whole family, it's one person that looks back all together and say, "Nah, we got to keep this shit together some kind of way." Find that person in your family. Go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
No, no, you're all right. Uh, and another thing, you know, um, expect because there's still a lot of elders out there who can still talk to you about things that happened. I mean, okay, slavery was over in what supposedly anyway. This is what they teach us in the European schools, that slavery ended in 1865, right? Well, that ain't number what, a little bit over 150 years ago. That's not that long.
Excuse me. I thought slavery was, I mean, because this is what I mean about taking other people's ideas on what stuff is. This is a slave to me, a person who builds another man's empire without having one of his own. That's a slave, right or wrong.
Absolutely.
I mean, so I think if we look at it the way they say it, they may say it, you a slave if you ride a unicorn. You know what I'm saying? How they say it, we do what they say. We don't look at it from our point of view. A slave is another man who builds another man's empire without having one of his own. That's my definition of a slave. Now, if I ask you what your definition of a slave is and you tell me what he told you, guess what your ass is? I mean, I'm right. So that's what I mean. Right? We got to look at this stuff that works for us, not what somebody tells us or what works for somebody else. Does that make sense, Rick?
No, no, not one bit.
I mean, does it make sense?
Oh, what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, of course, of course, of course.
Yeah, Okay, okay. Go back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dude. You just be bringing up point. You just be bringing up points, man. I'd be like, damn. I'm sorry. I'll try
Hey,
to.
hey, that's fine with me, man, because I get tired of hearing my voice a lot of times anyway. So if I talk too much,
Please continue.
Okay. So what you should be doing, you know, you could be asking them because I'm telling you, most of them, if you're okay, I'm 61. That's how old I am. Most people, at least my age, and I would say even younger, I would say up to maybe even early 50s. They know something about their Indian ancestry. Most of them, it might they might not think about it much, but if you bring it up to them, they I think it will pop up in memory. Now younger than that, maybe not, but you know, those are the kind of type of stuff that we should be asking the elders. We also should be asking them about Africa because that's what we were taught, and that's what a lot of us still believe, that we came from somewhere from thousands of miles away, halfway across the planet, and so you could and they might not know much even about the Indian ancestry, but you can ask particular questions that would and that they can answer, that'll give you hints. You can ask them stuff like, were there any Africans that lived in the neighborhood? Are you related to any Africans that you know of? Did you go to school with any of them? Questions like that. Those are easy. Those are simple questions that they can answer. You know, and if you get no, 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 because because one thing, they ain't gonna lie to you, not intentionally. I wouldn't think most of our relatives anyway. They're not gonna intentionally just tell us a lie, and they're saying no, 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 no. That should give you a hint. What? Wow, maybe I'm not African. You know, and other things you can ask them about their childhood. What kind of games did they play? What did moms do when I scraped my knee, or when I got a cold, or sick? What did she do? Stuff like that. And when they start telling you about all these remedies that grandma used to know, check out those remedies, find out where they come from. Now, I wouldn't, most of the remedies that I was given when I was coming up were, as a matter of fact, all of them were stuff that was indigenous to America. So I'm trying to figure out how did grandma learn all that stuff from Africa, because Africa don't have the same plants or anything than they do over here. Two different environments. Okay, and that's basically, like I said, y'all might have something more that y'all can add to it, or whatever. That's just a little basic thing. And another thing with ancestry is genealogy. Do your genealogy. Simple as that. You know, I don't get into genealogy that much because it ain't really my thing. Uh, I mean, I know the basics, and I've done my genealogy's been done. I haven't gone back as far as a lot of folks, because I know folks that's been going back to the 1500s, 1400s, stuff. I ain't been back that far yet, you know, but I got a basic knowledge of it, but it's just, it's not my, not my field. But I am smart enough to know that it's very important, into finding out things about your family and where you're from, stuff like that. Uh, you could also go to websites. There particular websites that you can go to that have ancestry, that can tell you about ancestry. You know, Plenty of websites can do that. You gotta kind of pick and choose which one you think is more trusting than the other, but you know that's up to the person that's doing it. Also, you can go to non-websites. You can go to places like libraries, courthouses, churches. Heck, you can go. A lot of people, as a matter of fact, a lot of people back in the day kept a lot of important papers in their Bibles. So you might even have some relatives that still have a lot of that stuff. So because they kept good records. I know my mother did. My mother, she didn't. Every receipt she probably got every receipt from when I known her. She keeps everything. So a lot of stuff you can find a lot of stuff like that, but you know I like I said, that's really not my thing. But I'm smart enough to know that it could you could find out a lot, going to places like that. So next thing I wanted to get into is history. And what I mean by history, I'm talking patriarchal, because we're into heritage and not history. History is patriarchal. So so this is basically about patriarchal thinking, but I think things that you should know events. Of course you should know events. You should know what happened. You should know dates. You should know results. What came out of it. And another thing that you need to know, you got to consider that the indigenous way is one way, and the patriarchal thing is probably the complete opposite. That's why I say you got to think of these things in two ways, really. A lot of this.
Hey Rick, can I add something real quick
Yeah, go ahead.
on to what he's saying? Another thing that you want to do, and this is, when you're doing your ancestry and the history, another thing you might want to keep in mind is find out, get a newspaper and a map. So let's say your people are from Montgomery, Alabama, or around that area. Get a newspaper or and the history of what happened in that area, because that could have affected your family. There probably was a war going on and they had to leave, and they probably had to go to another city. A whole lot of them had to run at one time. See, that happened a lot. So find out what happened, because one thing that we say that we're proud, we don't act like it, but when stuff like that happens, we really don't talk about it because it's embarrassing, because that means somebody came to your home, slapped the shit out of you and told you to move. It happened in Mississippi a lot. I know people today that won't even come back to Mississippi, and that's their home. That's where they created. That's where their people created. And they've been ran out of their home. Mississippi, it happened all throughout the South because wars was going on. So find out about that stuff. around the time, if you can't get any answers from your grandmothers and grandfathers and stuff like that, just find out when they were born and find out what was happening in the area they were born. You'll learn a lot that way. I'm sorry, Rick, go ahead.
Nah, hey, that's good. Like I said, hey, whenever you need to. Uh, the next thing I'm gonna talk about is laws. And laws, when I'm talking about laws, you got to look at it both ways. You got to look at it before the European and after the patriarchal system went into effect. So you got to kind of look at it both ways. Of course, you need to know what they were and what your laws were, the laws that your people made. The things that and, and and we didn't really our people we didn't really make laws, because we went by nature. Nature told us what to do. So, but uh unless you talking about laws of nature, that's how we went. We didn't go by man-made laws. That's why I say you got to kind of look at it both ways. you know and like I said, who made the laws? Who made them? Right? When did they make them? And who do they pertain to?
And did you help make them?
Right? Right? Yep. And that's like I said, it's other things that you need to know. But one thing I can say, it might sound like a lot of stuff that you might need to remember, but some of these skills you already got, and a lot of them gonna overlap. So once you learn one skill, the other skill is gonna follow. And the next thing you know, it's gonna come up like clockwork. When you see an event, see something happen, somebody say something that you ain't necessarily. Well, wait a minute, what happened with that? You're gonna know how to find out what you need to know to get it straight. You know, another thing that's very important that you got to know, that was what was going on back in those days, where you got to know the conditions. You got to know what the conditions were, because the conditions are different now than what they were back then. First of all, you got to know the location. You got to know the location. Where is it at? You know, you need to know the environment. What's the terrain? And like I said, it was different in those days than it is in this days. Example, Indigenous. Remember the article, I think it's 1862, about the bushwhackers?
Remember it clear as a bell.
Where did that happen?
In Kansas?
Kansas was the forest in those days.
You're
When you
absolutely
look at
right.
when you look at Kansas now, all you see is plains.
Right.
But in those days, Kansas was a forest. That's the environment of America. And when I say America, I'm talking about North and South.
Yeah, some
You
say
know,
when you look at them, some say when you look at a map, for those who can see. So when I mean, because I know when we talk about America, we're talking about from Alaska, Canada, USA, Mexico, the Caribbean, South America, all the way down to Chile. That's America. So, it's so big. I like to say we're in Central North America because that USA stuff, we're getting into that patriarchal stuff. We can call it whatever we want to call it.
But North America, that's still patriarchal.
No, the whole world is patriarchal, damn near.
That's what I'm saying. I just say America, and then where is that? Okay, did it happen in Birmingham? Did it happen in Charlotte? Did it happen in Los Angeles? You know, that's how I look at it. All of it. I mean, because as a matter of fact, a lot of Greenland is considered America. The islands out there, the Pacific Islands, are considered America.
Yeah, but I'm talking about so landmass wise, everything that's not underwater, because I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm just talking about land wise.
You talking about the mainland America?
Yes, and then I'm talking about this planet is divided into two hemispheres, east and west.
Right.
I mean, you have Europe, Asia, and Africa on that side, and you have us on, and you know who us is on this side.
Right.
I just try to make it simple, and it seems to me that what you're talking about, laws and all these other stuff, the people on the other side of the world made it for the people on this side of the world. And most of the people on this side of the world like what they did. And I know that's that patriarchal that you talk about.
Right. Right. Yeah. Another thing that you should know is you should know weather patterns. As a matter of fact, Indigenous one says it all the time about them slave ships coming over here on that Atlantic, across that Atlantic.
Dude.
During hurricane season.
Dude, the stories they tell us, you have to be embarrassed and a dumb fuck to listen to that stuff. They just tell us anything. So remember when you was a kid and you used to take a bath and you used to slide back and forth to make the waves in the tub?
Yeah.
Now, how I was taught is that the planet is a circular ball that spins around and it spins around the planet, blah, blah, blah. Going by that logic, on the equator, where they say we come out of, right there on the equator, the planet is flipping back and forth. The waves out there are humongous on the equator because it's at the center of the world. It's like back and forth, it tilts this one side and it tilts to the other side. You understand the concept, right, Rick Moon?
Oh yeah. And hey, and the thing about it though, these ships were made of wood.
Jerome, they're made of wood. So and the waves, those boats weren't like the tankers you see today. These were actual boats. These weren't ship like cruise ships. It wasn't like that. These were boats on the ocean. And this is what they're teaching in college today. This is what the cast of Coming to America had to know before they made that movie. Man, did you see that shit?
Yeah, I saw that garbage.
So, Friday night for everybody. This is going to blow your wigs back. In 1988, what happened? The term African American was dropped on you. The movie Coming to America came out. Three, that's when that gangster rap hit. That's when your music was marked for shit. And since that time to now, I want you to look at what has happened to the so-called African American community. And for all of you that we just die out. We're gonna talk about that Friday. What has the African American meant to the indigenous people here in America? And if you saw that movie Coming to America, you know what it meant. Check us out Friday. I'm sorry, we go ahead, man.
Oh, okay.
Little
Yeah.
commercial.
And to go along with weather patterns, you need to know currents because you got to remember those ships. They didn't know how to. They weren't metal. They didn't have motors and none of that type of stuff. They mainly went with the currents. Now, if you want to talk about you from Africa, there is no current. This is an example. There is no current that goes from Africa to North America. None. There's some that go to South America. But what they did was when they took them to South America, they would then bring them up to the islands and then on to North America if they brought very many. Because I still haven't seen any official records of any Africans coming over here earlier than 1904 on record. I mean, it might be, I just ain't seen it yet. You know, so you got to know the currents, and one thing about currents, they haven't changed very much. I mean, maybe with land movements and stuff like that, they may change a little bit, but they ain't changed very much from what they were back in those days. And that's all you got to do is just look them up and see how they run. You know, uh, the next thing that we should know is heritage. As you see, I put heritage and history different because heritage is more pertaining to indigenous people because they don't have heritage. So, and the first thing you want to talk about is the people. What was they doing? What was the people doing in those days? What did they eat? What medicines did they take? And where did it come from? Because you got to remember, back in those days, they didn't have grocery stores and factories, and they didn't have any of that stuff. So where was they getting all this stuff from? And people was eating, and nobody was starving. So you got to, especially before the European got here. Okay. Another thing that you should know is you should know the industry in those days. Agriculture, for one, if y'all didn't know, agriculture was created by females in America. That was one of the things they were fascinated with. The European was fascinated with when he came over here. When he saw people over here wasn't eating each other and saw them growing all this food and how everybody looked so healthy. things like that. You got to know the clothing. What did they wear? What did the people wear? What kind of tools did they use to do what they had to do every day? What kind of weapons did they use? And weapons is one thing that you got to look at it both ways, because in those days where they tell you how they tell you that the Europeans had guns and they came over here and blasted, and killed all the Indians and whatever with these guns. In those days, and they show it to you in the movies. They show it to you in these old Civil War movies all the time. There were number one shot rifles they was using. And once they got that shot off, they had to recock it, repack it, put do all that stuff. How many arrows you think I could have got off while they was in between that? How many think you could have got off Indigenous one?
One. And after they missed that one, the ass was grass.
No, I'm saying, how many you think you would get off before the knuckleheads got to shoot the second shot?
Say that again. How many shots I would have got off? Oh, how many?
No. How many arrows would you been able to get off after they shot that one shot?
Oh, okay.
And missed.
6.
Hey, see, you picked up, and we were good at these were things that we were good at. We just didn't miss very much.
Right.
So you done got off 6 arrows, so there go six dead devils.
Right.
Right, and he ain't got a shot off yet.
Yeah.
So, but they teach you in history that they kicked our butt.
So that's why
but we all know they was getting smoked.
That's why, y'all, you gotta think. Don't go by what somebody tells you, because they're getting control of your ego and make you think that you're something that you're not. What do you say? And you go into yourself to find those answers.
Right.
The part of you that makes your heart pump, the part of you that, makes your cells separate, the part of you that takes in your oxygen, the part of you that digests food, the part of you that is in control of everything. That's who you are. John Smith, that ain't you. That's the ego. Boston named you so he can drag you around by the collar. That's all that is.
Check. Yeah. And another thing we should know the economy. What did people do? How did they? Because that people didn't have everything. What did they do? How did they trade? Stuff like that.
Hey, Rick, we got a question from Copper Colored Lifestyle.
Go ahead.
Why did our people accept them? I still don't understand that. They couldn't have been much better then.
What you mean by accept them? You talking about the European system?
No, I think she's saying why. How do our people accept them? Because they didn't come over here doing all that shit. They came over here begging and we hungry, and almost dying, and we fed them and all that, blah blah blah. How do we let them set up colonies here? How do we allow? How did that happen? How do you think that happened?
Well, one thing that happened was they took advantage. They took advantage of our people. They knew, because our people are naturally good people. We're naturally nice. We'll help anybody. They knew that. They took advantage of that. Uh, Another thing they did was they got to the males. They got to the males. They were they introduced them to patriarchy. And if people don't know, the actual first economy that we had that was in this so-called uh, United States corporation, the first economy was females, not no paper money or nothing like that.
It was the females. So when you
And
see a lot
children.
so when you see they was trafficking back then,
Oh
and,
yes.
and what they got the brothers to do, and we still do it today, and many of y'all love them. Brothers only want what boss has. You see the brother the brother that wants to do his own thing. See, we're not really into him. We want the brother that got what that white boy got. That's all you want. If a brother got his car, he'll get all the women. But if a brother builds his own car, people look at him like he's crazy. That's what happened. They came over here and influenced these brothers to want to be like them. You can have my woman, dude. Vagina, dude. You ain't had asshole yet, brother. Seriously, dude. This when you hear about England back in the time, see, don't you got to look at the history, and don't look at the history of just them coming over here. Look at the history. Where was they coming from?
Oh yeah, you gotta know that too. You gotta know these other places' history too, like Africa and all them too.
Where was they coming from? And when you finally get that, for those of you who not, it'll start to make sense. So it's like this sister who married this cat in this royal family. And she's come out. This chick is pregnant. She pregnant, Rig Moon. And she's thinking about not just giving an abortion, she's thinking about aborting herself.
Wow. So she
Because
co- so she committing two crimes against nature because she got indigenous blood.
you're right. You mean her mama didn't tell her what she was getting into? They say her mama's a sister.
She is.
Her mama didn't tell her, look, maybe that's and see, that's that ego. Look at I got. Look at I'm marrying. And baby, you got into the most devilish, evil, demonic motherfuckers ever. And this is what I'm saying, y'all. We follow them. They tell us what to, and we do it. This is what you're doing, spending the time on your planet, in your home, and other people come tell you to do what they want, and you do it. That's a problem. So copper colored lifestyle, why did our people accept them? I'm gonna tell you the truth, because I'm on Rick Moon's side about this. Nature is cool. When you in it, when you out in it, when you out lounging in it, nature is cool. And somehow we thought it wasn't cool. We thought what they had was better. I think Rick Moon is call it, what do you call that? Patriarchal. We thought that patriarchal was better. So if you notice in the Bible, two men create Eve. See why we got all these Christians, and on page 1 of the Bible it tells you two men create Eve. And I didn't see it. And it's right there. It's right there. And this is the kind of stuff that we do, always doing dumb stuff, always going against nature, knowing you shouldn't go against it. It's not nice to fuck with Mother Nature, but you got to do it anyway. You got to beat your woman up anyway. You got to dog your kids out anyway. You got to lie to your kids anyway. This is what you do. And you wonder why we're in the position that we're in. So I hope this little COVID thing has shown everybody, let's stop fucking around, y'all. This is not what we're on the planet to do. This is not what our ancestors wanted after they was getting their ass kicked. And we got to do better than what we're doing. All of us. Go ahead, Rick.
Right. And the last thing as far as industry go is travel. How do we travel? And we did travel because you got another thing you got to remember when the Europeans, a lot of Europeans, when they got up here, they came from the north, where the waters were calmer. See, that's another thing that you got to know about how they got here over here. Not across no darn Atlantic Ocean. That part of the Atlantic anyway. And so you got to know how they travel, because when they got over, like I said, when they got over here, a lot of times when they got over here, nobody was there. They just moved right on in because no one was there. Because most people had like a winter spot and a summer spot. A spot when the weather was warm, and then a spot when the weather got too cold, wherever they was, they had another spot where the weather was warm. Our people did that all the time. So that's another thing. And like I said, it's other things that you need to know too that I ain't thought of, but you'll think of it. Like I said, the more you're familiar with it, the more you're gonna remember, and the easier it's gonna be.
Let's talk about that travel thing for a minute, because the moving in a straight line, how they got these straight lines built. I travel with some brothers in the Midwest and down south, and they take roads, man. It doesn't take as long as it takes on the highway. Okay, so like from Selma to Birmingham is about 2 hours. I rode with a brother one day. It took him like an hour, just over an hour. And I'm like, how did you? I didn't understand that. So in the travel, here's another example. So that's one example that I've experienced. And I'm sure a lot of people experienced it too. Here's another example. We're always told that the Wright brothers invented a plane in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina? Yeah. So how is it that these people are coming poor, ratty, infested? I think it's Europe's dumped its trash in America. I think that's how it's said.
Yeah, that was the original purpose of them coming over here. America was a penal colony for them.
So how does Orville and Wilbur Wright come up with an airplane Do you think that technology was already here? Huh?
Oh
Rick,
yeah, it was here.
cause seriously, cause it doesn't make sense to me. When you talk about travel, how we travel and stuff and how we move, and I'm thinking it's how we think and how everything we do, how our connection is with nature and everything, and what we thought of ourselves before we had visitors. I'm just thinking that it's nothing. Everything that we see in front of us now is to slow us down.
Yeah, like hey, just like I said, the last show that the last time I was on, hey, we were the originators of everything.
Right.
Everything came from us. So how could we come from somebody else?
Yeah. So that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. What's being done? We got away from that, and we got into that would you call it patriarchy?
Yeah, patriarchy.
We got into that, and you can see it. You can see it. When you talk about going back and looking at your ancestry and all that. If you look at the dresses the sisters made back then, if you look at the clothes the brothers wore back then, that shit was off the hook.
Sure was.
It was off the hook. And we just walked away from it, and we got this arrogant ass attitude about it. Like what we doing now is better. You know what I'm saying?
Mm. Hey, and check this out. Check this out. This happened. Remember we went up to West Virginia and we met the couple and the lady. It was they were from Georgia and the the wife she had on that African garb.
Right.
That's remember when Radon let them wear some of their clothes, some of her clothes, some of them Indian clothes.
Yes.
Remember that what was her name? The one from LA. The one you knew. She was there too.
Giovanna?
Yeah, Giovanna. Remember when they tried on all those indigenous clothes?
I, it's been so long ago, man, I can't remember. But
I ain't gonna never forget it because when they put on them clothes, they looked like it
oh
was
yeah,
three
I
of them.
remember that. Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they looked like it was because it was somebody else too. They looked like three completely
Yeah.
different females.
Yeah. I remember
I
that.
mean, the beauty just
Right.
came out. Even the chick that had, and the little African thing, it was nice.
Right.
It was nice. But when she put on them indigenous clothes, it just brought her whole
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
personality out, all of them.
Yeah.
Man, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And that's why I always when I talk to female, I always tell female, man, y'all need to start wearing headbands.
Right.
Headbands make I'm telling you, that turn dudes on. I'm telling you.
Well, look, Rick, we're gonna go ahead and shut it down now. We coming up on that hour now. So I know you want to come back and do this. So we're gonna try to get you back this week. We'll definitely let the chat know when you're coming back because some of the things he brought up tonight are things we're gonna have to know moving forward because other people can come tell us anything, and we ought to know what we got to know what we're doing.
Right, right. Because I still got as a matter of fact, I didn't even finish the heritage part. I still gotta go over the practices and stuff like that.
Okay, brother. Well, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get you on for next time to bring that up. All right, man.
Yeah, and I got some other things too. So yeah, that'll be fine, man. I mean, I understand. I know I didn't want to go over the time limit,